What else would you like me to know?
I'd like you to know that I've been working since I got Samson to make him a support animal, a service animal. He has become an emotional support animal, and Rose knew that before, or when she gave him to me.
Okay, unless you have a doctor's note, I'm not hearing as an emotional support animal.
Yeah, I understand that. It's in the workings. Without airing out all my medical stuff to the court.
So since 2023, when you were in placement of, or you had custody of Samson until April 2025, who paid his vet bills?
I did.
Is he up to date on his shots?
I'm not sure where he's at right now. I don't have his tag. I don't have any of that. Rose has had him since April, but he had his shots, yes.
April wasn't that long ago prior to that, when he was in your custody.
His shot should have been up to date. Yes, I took him up here to the animal wellness.
What else do you have for the court to convince me that you are the owner of Samson?
Rose's testimony itself from when we met with Commissioner Krupa, there was no denial.
What happened in Commissioner Krupa's courtroom?
Okay, can we ask Ms. Hutari if she gave Samson to me?
You're going to be able to ask questions of her later. Right now, you're giving your testimony. She's going to get to ask you questions, and then she's going to give testimony. You're going to get to ask her questions.
Okay. I don't have any paperwork. Samson's tags are on my keychain, and I have no access to my keychain.
Why do you have no access to your keychain?
Because my vehicle is an impound in Sawyer County.
All right. Okay, Ms. Hutari, do you have, the court will receive Exhibit 1. Ms. Hutari, do you have any questions for Mr. Hess?
No.
Hearing his testimony, you have no questions.
I know I can say that I let him take Samson in April of 2023 with conditions that he was able to provide a stable home for Samson and take care of him. I can say I have the copy of the records of when I purchased Samson and February 27th of
Well, there is no dispute that you purchased Samson. There's maybe argument that you purchased him for an ex-boyfriend, but Mr. Hess agrees you purchased him. It was originally your dog. You got into a relationship, and when you broke up from that relationship, you gave him Samson.
with conditions.
All right, so explain that.
I gave him Samson with conditions. I knew that Mike wasn't in a spectacular headspace, and I thought that having Samson to take care of would help keep him in a better place. Since then, Mike has been in and out of jail. A couple of times, Samson has wound up in the pound. I believe when he was arrested in Sawyer County, Samson wound up in the pound then. I have since taken Samson to the vet, the same vet, got his shots and everything updated. They were not they were not current. I have the same text messages as part of the restraining order that I have against Mr. Hess. He has been, I have video of him driving by my house. I
don't need to hear that. That's not relevant.
Okay. He lives with or spends a great deal of time with his girlfriend. She lives in a trailer court where the dog's not allowed to be.
Not true.
You can't talk while she's talking.
The owner of the trailer court said that.
Can't tell me what people say.
Okay, I'm sorry. The dog is with me. He's safe. He's in one place. He's no longer being drug all over the world. He's calm. I have someone who can attest to his demeanor now versus what it was before. Samson is safe with me.
So you admit that you gave him Samson in April 2023 because you thought that he needed Samson for whatever reason, but you said you gave him with conditions.
Mhm.
What were the conditions?
The conditions were that he provide him with a stable, safe environment with him, not with his parents while he spends months in jail. It was for Mike to have him and take care of him, not someone else. And as I said, he's been in and out of jail several times. It's not fair to the dog to have him going back and forth. And I said, at the point that I stopped taking Samson, it was because I believed that Mike was doing things he shouldn't be doing. And I made the choice not to have Mike in my life, not the dog, Mike. I own a business. Things in his character are not something I want associated with myself or my business. I went the last time that I made the decision. Mike was in jail on a $25,000 bond. I thought at that point that they were going to keep him. I finally felt safe and comfortable enough. I reached out to Mike's mom. I explained to her that when I let Mike take Samson, it was under the agreement that he was going to be able to take care of him, provide him with a safe place to be. And she said, okay, you can come get him. And I went there without any ill will from his parents, and picked Samson up and brought him home. When they did release Mike, actually his first contact with me was when he called me at my business on my business phone and asked if he could see Samson. And I said, asked how he was doing. I said he was doing well. He asked if he could see him, and I said no. And he asked what I meant by that. I said, you've chosen your road. You've made your choices. No, I don't. I am not going to let you see him. He said, aren't people allowed to change their road? And I replied and said, yeah, we've been down that road before also. And I hung up. Then he sent me the text message going on about a bunch of like whatever past stuff that has absolutely nothing to do with him having Samson. He just repeatedly tells me that I'm wrong and I shouldn't have him. And like I said, there was a time that I had great faith that Mike wouldn't go back down the ugly road that he did. And that's why I trusted him to take Samson. He chose to go back down that ugly road.
All right, so one of your conditions was that he provide a stable home for Samson. By stable home, did you go over what you meant by stable home with Mr. Hess in April 2023?
No, I thought it was obvious at the time. I didn't go into detail.
Did you go over any conditions with Mr. Hess that were clear for him to understand that if he does X, that he will no longer be able to have Samson?
Verbally, no.
All right, let's talk about that. What started as a straightforward Replevin case over a dog ended up unearthing a complex tangle of heartbreak, hope, and personal boundaries with Samson, a 7-year-old German Shepherd, caught in the middle. Judge Mogen had her hands full with Michael Hess v. 4. Rose Hutari, and credit where it's due, she remained steady, composed, and when needed blunt, especially as the clock ticked and emotions flared. Michael Hess's argument was clear. He claimed Rose gave him Samson in April 2023 as a gift, with the understanding that he'd provide a stable home. He testified that he paid for vet visits, that Samson was his emotional support animal, and that he had text messages where Rose allegedly acknowledged giving him the dog. He also pointed out that since Rose took Samson while he was briefly incarcerated in 2025, he hasn't been allowed to see or visit the dog. His effort to convince the court centered on text messages, testimony, and the emotional bond he had with Samson. But here's where it gets tricky. Rose Hutari didn't deny that she let Hess take the dog. In fact, she confirmed it, but said the arrangement came with conditions. Samson was to be in Hess's care, not bounced between family or left during jail stays. She voiced serious concerns about Hess's ability to provide a stable, consistent home, citing prior incarcerations, the dog ending up in the pound, and a restraining order stemming from unwanted contact. She described taking Samson back when Hess was incarcerated on a $25,000 bond, contacting his mother, and retrieving the dog with no pushback from the family. Her position was firm. It wasn't about keeping Samson from Hess out of spite, it was about the dog's well-being and safety. Now, while Hess said there was no written contract and the gift was unconditional, Rose maintained that stable home was part of the agreement even if they didn't define it in detail. This is where Judge Mogen zeroed in. Gifts can be revoked under certain conditions, sure, but only if the terms are clear. And from what was said, the original understanding between them was verbal, vague, and open to interpretation. The courtroom tone was respectful but emotionally charged. Hess, clearly invested in the outcome, spoke with urgency and occasionally tried to interject earning reminders from Judge Mogen to stay silent, while others spoke. Rose remained calm and composed, clearly frustrated but articulate about her decision. She was organized, had documentation, and outlined a timeline of events that backed her claim that she acted out of concern for the dog's welfare. What Judge Mogen ultimately faces is a classic, he said, she said, but with an added twist of implied conditions, mental health concerns, and competing narratives about responsibility. Hess paints himself as a man trying to turn his life around with the help of his loyal companion. Hutari presents herself as someone who made a difficult choice after losing trust in the person she once supported. No ruling came down at this point. But it's safe to say the case raised more than just questions about property. It tugged at the delicate balance between legal ownership and the emotional bonds we form with animals. If you found this hearing insightful, consider subscribing, hitting the bell, and letting me know your thoughts in the comments below. I read every one.